Hello, Christina Rezo. Thanks for tuning in and happy Thursday to each and every one of you. Today I'm going to talk about uh, the irony of Juneteenth being on Father's Day this weekend. Now, it's supposed to be a federal holiday. I live here in Texas. I think it should only be statewide because what would a black kid from New York City know anything about Juneteenth until it was just spread, and history doesn't always tell the truth. Now, why I say it's ironic that Juneteenth is a so called black holiday, and the black women that support this are single mothers themselves. And that's where the Father's Day come in. Because most black men, and this is with women all across the board, if you're a black guy listening to this, tell me where I'm wrong. They just abandon their children. I'm not saying other racial groups don't do this, but by the numbers of any racial group of women, including your preference white women, Asian women, Hispanic women, and of course black women, you're willing to run out on your children. Now, you will lay down with a woman, but you won't take personal responsibility. As we speak, my father, even though I've forgiven him several Father's Day ago, I don't need his money. I'm doing just fine. I'm in my 40s. I don't need his money. When I was a kid, of course I needed him. But he chose not to be there for our family, and he owes the government over 7,000 in child support. 70,000, excuse me. That's more than the average, almost, or if not even close to the student loan debt. And my brother and I decided we spent Father's Day, weekend with him and things like that. Probably like 10, 20 years ago, whatever. But it was useless because he decided he really didn't want to be in our lives. Now, that's a lot of money. And the average black man doesn't make that much. So I think what he's going to do, or what he's avoiding, is he'll probably get some job. I'm sorry, get some job, like in a dive place where he's getting paid under the table, because once he files those taxes, that money is going to be stripped for his child support payment. And the last payment, I don't mean to chuckle, but that my mother got from him was only $60. So, without being disrespectful, she can get that money until her grave. She's in her early 60s, but she's not going to get all that money back from him. Compared to like the late 70s when I was born and my brother was born in the early 80s. But child support didn't hit hard with kids at that time. Why am I mentioning all this? It's just ironic that Juneteenth is on falling on Father's Day, and yet everybody and their mama has to have the day off on Monday. I don't think it should be a federal holiday. I really don't. It should only just fall on Texas. Because again, what would a kid from New York City know about Juneteenth? So this country has done a lot and bent over backwards for Black Americans, despite of Black Americans in this country irresponsibility. You can blame it on systemic racism that hasn't existed in 60 years. My grandparents lived in Jim Crow. I guess that could be systemic racism. There's no such thing as institutional racism. Black Americans can do. We are the best. We are in the best country living. When I lived in Europe and lived overseas, you know what the people called me? American. They didn't hyphenize my race and ethnicity. I can go to an African country. You really think I can fit in there? Maybe I can fit in Ghana, maybe Nigeria, but even Africans have told me flat out in my face, you are not African American because you know nothing about it. Africa, it being Africa. And I respect that. There have also been Africans who have told me most of their worst experiences in living, immigrating to this country. And believe it or not, they do better than white Americans. Have told me they've been called African booty scratcher. Guess what? From other blacks. So about the skin folk and Kim, we don't all think alike. That's why black nationalism is an oxymoron. Even white nationalism is an oxymoron. Because even in the beginning of this country, how Irish people were denigrated, how Italians were denigrated when they first immigrated in this country. Thanks to our friend Benjamin Franklin, didn't even consider Germans as WASP, white, the ethno state or whatever, white people. Okay? Just like I'll go deeper than that. There's a difference between myself than another black person in England or France or Kenya or Nigeria. It's more about culture. I would have more in common with a white woman from South Dakota than I would from a black woman from Nigeria. It is what it is. Now, I came across this stuff because about the consequences and the result of fatherlessness, and Charlie Kirk pointed this out. He's a realist. He's coming at. I mean, well, I'm not gonna say race realism because I'm not gonna go into IQ and deep into that, and but there are definitely reasons of how can I put this? Of why people make excuses not to get out of the situation they've gotten out of. Because I was bullied by a lot of black people in Chicago because I made it and did the best I could, and I didn't use race as an excuse, despite of the fact that my grandpa, God rest his soul, he's with the Lord now. They said, "Oh, they're not gonna hire you because you're black," but I didn't let that stick in my head because I knew the world more than he did. All he knew was Mississippi and Chicago. So I didn't let that stop me at all. Despite of the race of the person, it didn't even have to be a black person. Sin is sin despite of your race. But let me go into this. Consequences of fatherlessness. Poverty, crime, education, teen pregnancy. Okay, So some people will say, okay, poverty leads to crime. I believe it's the complete opposite because I've lived in poor countries, and believe it or not, I was safer walking down the street in a campesino in a dirt road country as a Peace Corps volunteer without worrying about being shot in a prestigious city like Chicago. And these people were dirt poor, no water, no electricity in several months, no bathrooms. And I didn't hear anything about no crime rate. In fact, it's the complete opposite. And I mentioned this before. Crime leads to poverty. Because if you have a criminal record, where are you going to find a job? You're convicted, your crime was bank robbery. You served several years in prison for bank robbery. You think a bank is going to hire you? Or even being a cashier at Walmart, Target, or let alone a teller at a bank? Now, maybe times have changed now, and with all this wokeism and stuff like that. But if you already have a criminal record, you're gonna have a much more difficult time finding a job as opposed to someone that has no job experience with a high school diploma. Oh boy. 71% of high school dropouts are fatherless. Fatherless children have more trouble academically, poorly on tests on the arithmetics. I worked with City Colleges of Chicago for 9 years, teaching Spanish speaking illiterates, and they were English. Couldn't even read and write in their own language, over 70% of them, let alone trying to learn a second language. And I ran across, thank God I didn't have the privilege, and it is a privilege and patience not to teach GED students because I tried it for several days in a language school on the north side near Northeastern University in Chicago, and I got attitude. Shaniqua, can you read paragraph 3, please? I don't have to do ish, the attitude. Why are you here? Because your probation officer told you you had to be here? I could have made a choice. If it weren't for the Lord, I would probably have like 4 different baby daddies by now. Like my youngest cousin, struggling in Florida. It's all about her. We can blame her environment all we want to, but we still have choices. Say, no, I'm not going to do that. Just like I don't choose to smoke marijuana. I don't choose to get high on cocaine and whatever. Maybe all of this is an oxymoron. But the bottom line is fathers are needed. Period. We need leaders in the homes. And there is a brother that I subscribe to on YouTube. love him, conservative, loves the Lord. If I'm blessed with marriage, that's the husband I want. Because I'm not going to submit to any man that's a liberal and doesn't love Jesus, despite of his race. I don't care what his skin color is. Yeah, I said it. A lot of black women are, no. He has to love Jesus first. Because if he loves Jesus, of course he's going to love himself. Respect our country values and know how to be a leader, despite of his race. Because I've already heard liberals. I come from a liberal state, and I lived in New York City for over a year. I know how liberal men think. They're too emotional. I don't need another emotional person living with me. I'm the emotional one. I'm the woman. If I get out of line, I need a man that knows how to handle me. And he doesn't have to be aggressive about it or be violent, but know how to handle me. Because that's what we need as women. The feminist movement was an oxymoron as well. The biggest mistake in this country. Because women wanted to compete and be men. We could never be men. Just like men cannot be women. I don't care how much breast he can have a D cup. I'm not a size D. A transgender can be a D, but he can never experience as I do as a woman. That's why this big popular question, what is a woman, is a big deal. Because this country is lost. The world is lost. Most of it anyway. That's all I have. Have a great weekend. This is my last video for the weekend. I'm gonna relax this complete weekend. Love y'all. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with your friends the video. Christina Rezzo, pray for our nation, pray for our brothers and sisters suffering on the persecuted church. In the name of Christ. And I'll talk to you super soon.